Hey guys, this is Graham again in my series of tutorials for Dr. Carter's AFAS 377 course. And in this video, I'm going to be going over sort of how to actually record your Spreaker podcast. In my last video, I talked a little bit about writing and planning a podcast, but in this one, I want to go through, sort of the exact steps to take to record your podcast. So in this window, I've got Spreaker Studio open on the left and Microsoft Word open on the right. This is exactly how my computer looked when I recorded my end of course podcast project. This allows you to sort of navigate the Spreaker software. You can record, you can play tracks, you can play sound effects as you're talking and recording your podcast. But like I said in the last video, I think it's very useful to actually write out your script. So obviously you need to be able to access that too. So that's why I split screen these. If you wanted to print your script and read it off a sheet of paper, you could do that as well. So let's get into sort of how to actually set up the hardware necessary to record a podcast. So the first thing, obviously, when recording a podcast that you need is a microphone. Most laptops have a microphone built in, although it's not always the highest quality mic. So you can see in Spreaker, the microphone and sources section here has your mic settings, and you can see it's picking up me talking. But they default to, I'm on a MacBook, they default to they call it built-in microphone. I'm going to use actually the Samson Q1U. It's a USB microphone that I used back in the day when I was playing a lot more music and recording music. And it's relatively inexpensive if you wanted to do a lot more of this, or if you happen to have a USB mic on you for some reason. You can definitely use it when recording a Spreaker podcast, and it'll give you a lot better sounding audio. And they're really simple to use. You just plug it in the USB port in your computer, and then you can go to your system preferences and go to sound, and then just double check that your microphone is here, and you can adjust the setting and stuff to get the input levels to where you want to be relative to your voice volume and where you're sitting and everything. And you can do that in Spreaker too. So regardless of what mic you're using, you're going to want to go into this menu, pick the mic you want to use, definitely use stereo for sort of a natural sound. And then what you want to do is play with this setting a little bit. Essentially, this slider represents the input level of your microphone. So the further to the right it is, the more sensitive your microphone is going to be. So you can see if I talk more loudly, it actually overloads the mic when I set it all the way to the most sensitive. You get those red bars. So I'm going to put it somewhere around here. This is my normal speaking volume, and it seems like it's picking it up pretty well. So play with this setting. This is really crucial to having a good sounding podcast. You can actually just go ahead and try some different settings. I'll put it really low, and then you can actually just record a podcast. Just go offline and start Spreaker's recording. So you can see up here where I'm recording a podcast as I record this screencast. And then you can kind of just check your mic levels a little bit. So what I did when I was testing was I would say, test 1 2 1 2 at this volume, middle volume, test 1 2 1 2, 75%, test 1 2 1 2, and check all the different levels that you think you might want to use. Then pause, stop, and you'll have your draft in here, and you can actually just go back and listen and decide which one sounded the best for your mic setup and your voice, and then go back into your record section and say, okay, 75% sounded the best. I'm going to set that right there for recording my final podcast. So now that our mic is set up, it's really important that we talk too about headphones. I think that it is critical to use headphones when you're recording a podcast in Spreaker. Because if you're doing anything at all with samples, with sound effects, with tracks, anything beyond just your voice, you should be wearing headphones when you record your podcast. The reason being, if you play back these tracks, you want to be able to hear the playback while you record, so that you can sort of time your speaking parts with the audio that you're playing in your podcast. But if you just play that through your laptop speakers or your computer speakers in the same room that your mic is in, you're going to get a lot of weird delay feedback kind of stuff, because the mic is picking up the sound that the audio is putting out your speakers, as well as the Spreaker software, when you press play on a track, sort of internally records that into the podcast. So you should definitely wear headphones when you record your podcast, because you want to be able to hear it, but you don't want your mic to be able to hear anything at all. So the way that you can sort of do that is use the monitor feature. The monitor button looks like a pair of headphones, and essentially what it does is it lets you decide what you hear in your computer's audio output. So if you're wearing headphones, that audio output is your headphones or earbuds. And if it's yellow, that means it's on. So if I play a track right now, my computer's connected to speakers, it'll play through the speakers. But if I disable it, now you can't hear it, though it's still being recorded into the podcast. So similarly, there's a monitor button down here, which gets a little confusing on the microphone. Just leave this one disabled. Basically, this one just allows you to hear your own voice in your earbuds or headphones with some slight delay, which makes it a little difficult to speak naturally. And as long as you've tested your mic and everything, and you're just going to leave the settings as you decided before you started recording, there's no need to monitor your own input. So now we have our headphones set up to monitor, and we have our microphone set up to record our voice. So we're pretty much ready to go. Assuming we have our tracks, I had a video earlier on getting these MP3 files into Spreaker off of YouTube. And in the last video, I talked about, the importance of writing a script and ordering these. So as long as you have all your tracks in the right order, you have your mic set up and you have your headphones set up, we are pretty much ready to record our podcast. So I'll sort of show you what that process looks like. So when you're ready to record, you have your script pulled up, press start. And if you want to stream live, maybe you want to post to Notebowl and let people sort of listen to you record your podcast, you can choose live. I prefer offline because it sort of gives you a few chances to get it right. So I'm going to record offline. And now Spreaker is recording my podcast. So, I'm talking, I'm reading my script. I get to a cue. So I play Count Bubba. And then I read the next line. And then I play the next track. And so on and so forth until I get all the way through my script and I've finished my podcast. So when you're done, you just press pause up on this big red button and then press this stop button. Okay, so what this allows you to do is you've got your recording as a draft. So say this is the one that I just recorded and I think it's awesome and I'm ready to publish it as my end of course project. So what you're going to do is publish, and you can give it a title, give it a little description, and then you can publish it onto Spreaker. I won't actually publish it because that would just be just a few words from this recording, so there's no use in publishing it. But when you do, that will show up on your Spreaker account, and that's where you can get the URL to just post in the end of course project document for Dr. Carter's class. So once you've done all that and you've shared the link, your podcast project is finished and it's ready for audiences. So hopefully this helped you guys make your podcasts. Thanks again for listening.